Go Slow with Joe, a podcast of talks between mind and soul, while rambling between personal and real experiences, and also some hypothetical, bringing always a deep meaning about everything, with inner connection, truth, and mindfulness. Welcome. Hello, welcome to the second season of the Go Slow with Joe podcast. This is episode number 42. I'm so grateful to finally be here. I've had a few weeks where I needed really to connect myself with my purpose, with what I'm doing here, with the reason why I'm doing here, or why I'm doing this in here and in this context. And I have to tell you that so many things have changed in my life. And when I say this, it might even sound that, oh, wait, something very major changed in Joanna's life, or she's not the same person as she used to be. No, I'm still the same person. What I feel right now, though, is that I'm much more certain of what I want to do, but also in an uncertain way at the same time. I finished last season of this podcast saying that I was approaching life and the healing process in such a more humble way, like with so much more humility. And today I feel that I'm much more certain about the uncertainty of life, and I'm much more certain about the fact that we are always changing. And sometimes, even if you are so sure about so many things in your life, maybe there are many other things that you will not be sure about, or that you have to be sure about who you are, even though things might not be the way how you expected them to be. So for these last months, actually, not only these last weeks, while I had this pause of the podcast, but throughout these past months, I've been going through this very deep process that I think I even wrote it here on my notebook, that they were sort of hell for me. I was so sure about so many things, and then suddenly I feel like someone had pulled the rug under my feet, and I suddenly felt like I was just falling constantly into fears and traumas and things that I really had to look at, things that I thought that they were so certain already in my life, that I had them already sort of already, I don't know, organized into drawers in my life. And then suddenly I feel like life really pulled this rug from under my feet, so I would be even more certain right now about them. And I'm not going to tell you which ones they were or not, but I just want to let you know that it's okay if you're feeling lost. It's okay if you're doubting things that you thought not so long ago that they were for sure for you. I really feel, and I've shared this message that I feel like I've channeled on YouTube a few months ago. We really are being called to do what it is for us, not what maybe we expected to be. And throughout these last months, I feel like so many things that I was certain about, they were just constantly putting me or challenging me and putting me in a position where I was not comfortable with it or with the result of it. So I really had to look inwards constantly, and even more than before. I really had to look into myself and look at myself and look at my life and really know what it was making sense to me or not, because sometimes we really put ourselves into that sort of mental safe place of like, okay, this is where I got, and this is, I can only go from up from this point on, right? And sometimes life is not like that, right? Cycle, or life really goes into cycles, and cycles also go down sometimes. And even if you were so certain about a certain thing not so long ago, it's okay if you are kind of doubting this certain thing right now. And I just want to give you this heads up, because I feel like I've been going through this throughout the last few months, definitely months. And again, and I already said this, I was so certain about so many things in my life. And then suddenly I really had to just surrender and understand that, okay, even if I'm so certain about this is not working for me the way how it is. And I love what I do. I love so many things in my life, and I love the fact that I have this or that I have that. But in a way, it's just not working for me right now, and I have to look into it and understand why it is. And by looking into it, I just feel like I fell in love even more with so many things that I already was in love with in my life. And there were other things that I was like, you know what, this doesn't make any sense to me anymore, even though like a few months ago or a few weeks ago, it was something that I was so sure about. Yeah, this might seem a little bit, I don't know, confusing. You know, today I sat down here and I realized that only now I'm ready to open my heart to you, because before I was not open to it. So I wouldn't be able to sit down here and explain you this thoroughly. And even though I feel like there are certain details that I'm still working on them, or that are still things that I want to keep for myself, which are so important. And maybe I'm going to bring you only the result of these times. But there are other things that I would really like to explain to you, not in a justification way, or not as a justification, but just because I feel like if it was important for me, it might be important for you. And throughout these months and throughout this also past few weeks, when I say that I was going through hell, it's because I was really, I'm not sure if I was doubting my purpose. I was just kind of fighting it. And I think I was fighting it because I really thought that I had to do it in a certain way. I had to show up on social media in a certain way. I had to be here with a certain I don't know, like as often as I have established before. I had to do certain things in a certain way that I have already established before as well. So I was putting myself again into boxes, and I know that I've talked about this in the last episode. I'm quite sure I did, but I was really putting myself into like behind bars. And I've realized that really life is really changing constantly, and we really are being invited to change with it as well. And if there are certain things that are not working for me, I just have to look into them and understand if there's something that I need to heal, or if something has just literally changed inside of me, and I just have to accept that new version of myself. So I was kind of doubting the way how I was approaching my purpose. And I feel like my purpose, at least for now, it really goes along a lot with my job and the way how I serve you, the way how I'm here for you, the way how I help you as well in your healing process. And at some point, I just had this feeling that I don't identify myself anymore with the way how things are being shared on social media. I don't identify myself with the way how I have to show up. So I just decided not to do it. And especially during the past few weeks, if you've listened to that live that I did on YouTube, where I've channeled this message that I was telling you about before, I told you, you are not your job. You are not what you do. You are much more than that. And I feel like these past few weeks, I was really living this. I really decided to live this very, very thoroughly. Even though so many times I felt like I wanted to share things with you, I just felt like, no, I don't want to do this because I want to know before doing this, I want to know why I'm doing this. And today I'm sitting down here the way how I used to do, but even more certain that I'm doing this because this is my purpose, and that it's my purpose to show you what happened to me and what's happening to me in a way of, I hope that this inspires you in any way in your own life, not because I'm inspiring, but because I hope that in your life you can also take this in any way. It might even be in a totally different way, as I yes, in a totally different way, but in your own way. If you can take this into your life in your own way, I'm already going to be happy for it. So along these past weeks, I really sat down with this feeling of like, you know what? What if I don't show myself this way? What's going to happen to me? And what happened was that many times I felt a bit frustrated. I felt like I wasn't loved. I felt like I was not useful. Many times I felt like I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. Many times I felt like I was just leaving myself on the side of the road, and that the bus kept on going and I was just by myself on the side of the road. And I'm looking at the clock, it's 11:11. I'm very happy that I'm sharing this with you. And by doing this and along this time and throughout this time, I also felt like, you know what? I'm much more than this at the same time. And I realized how much I was integrating myself with the fact that I am a therapist, that I work as a therapist. I know that my job is something that it's never going to be something further away from my own life, but it's one thing is you taking your purpose and the things that you believe, and for example the systemic consciousness into your life. This is something that I've signed that contract as a soul. I'm pretty sure that I did. But another thing is just assuming that your own personality is only about what you do, and the how many clients you have, or how many appointments you've done this month, or how many people you've helped. And even though I know that I've always been here with an open heart and with the aim of helping you, I was also putting myself into a place of, I'm depending on this. I'm dependable of this. Without this, I am nothing, and I'm nothing else. So, along these months, many people approached me with these questions. Joanna, please help me. I'm having an identity crisis. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't feel useful. I feel like many things in my life don't make sense anymore. So I can tell you that I totally relate with that. And the feeling that I've had during these past months, and especially these past weeks, was, you know what? If you are having an identity crisis, you really should look into what you feel like your identity is related to. What are you feeling that your identity is related to in your life? Because sometimes it's our relationships, it's your relationship status, it's how much money you have, it's what you do, for example, like I'm telling you. So, and for me, indeed, this was it. My identity was definitely just related to the fact that I'm a therapist, I'm a facilitator of family constellations, and this is what I do. And even the people that I would know, that I live in Abu Dhabi, so I'm an expat here, so I'm constantly getting to know new people. And even the conversations that I would have with new people, they would never go any further than the fact that, what am I doing? People normally, they don't ask you, so what do you do in your free time? They ask you like, okay, what's your name? Where are you from? Why are you here? And what do you do here, right? And then you justify what you are doing here or in life with your job. And at a certain point, I felt like, even this is like a sort of a mirror of what I feel inside of me, because I feel that I am only this. What I am is my job. What I am is being a facilitator. And, one professor of mine of family constellations told me once, we deal with the dark side, with our shadows, with the shadows of the clients that approach us, right? They're the things that hurt them, the things that they are not being able to deal with, right? So it's our job in our own lives to find light, to find the light apart from the darkness, to find joy. And I feel that in the past months, I kind of forgot that. And I went so much into darkness, so much into hard emotions and things that were just not easy to deal with. And of course, because I had this inside of me also to look into. But you know what? I really want to live my life with joy. And I told you this many months ago. I'm sure that I have an episode on the first season of this podcast about joy. And I knew already that these things were coming for me, right? I was catching this and I've worked on this. I family constellated this, just to admit it to you. So all these things, everything that I share here, it's also about my inner process. It should be probably like 60-40. 60% of my inner process, 40% of things that come and approach me in appointments, for example. But it's always related to myself, right? So since the moment I told you that I'm looking for joy, it's the moment I realized that I'm kind of losing it. And, I love this so much. How am I losing joy from something that I love so much in my life? And I started kind of thinking about it. I told you before that I kind of felt like I was not identifying myself so much anymore with social media in the way how I had to show up and all this, right? So this also helped me. If I'm not finding joy in this, how can I find it? What's not working for me? Which partnerships are not working for me anymore? Which projects do not make sense to me anymore? Which are the things that I feel like I've committed to and they don't make sense to me anymore? So this identity crisis, it helped me so much, and it's still helping me. I told you in the beginning and in the last episode, I'm approaching the healing process with so much more humility than before. Because, sometimes you feel like you are like on the top of the mountain, I've been through hell. Now I know everything about life, or I know mostly everything, and I know the reason why everything is happening. And sometimes, life really pulls the rug and from under your feet, and you really don't know what's going on. And this is what happened to me. I went through a disease. I've changed so much. I found my inner process. I found my self-love. I found my purpose. And still in 2023, I still went through hell with an identity crisis, with this feeling of suffering so deeply about something that I love so much, but I just didn't know what I could do about it. So indeed, I went through this humility process very, very, very deeply. So yes, this identity crisis really, it's helped me so much, and it's still helping me so much. So again, just for you to take a point from this, if you are going through an identity crisis, please check in yourself. What are you identifying yourself with? Where are you putting the importance of your identity, of your being in your life? Is it in your relationship status? Is it's in your the place that you have in your job? Is it the things that you do? Is it your weight? Is it the clothes that you have? Is it the car that you own? What is it? Where are you placing your identity in? Because this is what I feel that the crises is coming from that. Because in the end, what we will realize is that we are much more than that. And I told you this in the live of YouTube that I did, but I know many people didn't. I believe that many people didn't listen to it, and this was something that I've channeled, so I decided to leave it on YouTube just for a few weeks. It's not online anymore, but it's very much related to this again, like we are really being called to do something with what we are, but we are not just what we do, we are much more than that. And this is what I feel like I went throughout these past months. And during this last month, where I've stopped and I told you that the first season was going to end and the second season was going to start somewhere soon. And this is it. This is now. I just decided to, you know what? If I feel like this is my identity, I will just do this exposition to just not having this. It's as if you have, for example, a toxic relationship with a boyfriend or with a girlfriend. And it's like, you know what? I need to do this by myself. So then I will check if I'm still in love with you or if I'm dependable of you. And you know what? I just realized that I am so in love with what I do. And this toxicity was just because I was associating my value and my self-love and how useful I am to the world just with how much I was serving you. And this really put me in an unbalanced relationship with what I was doing. I was just loving it so much. I was craving it so much that I was kind of doing this, that example of love, that when you love someone, imagine that someone is like a piece of sand. And if you grab it like this, a lot is going to come out, right? Whereas if you do like this, a lot is going to come out as well through your fingers. Whereas if you do like this, sorry, maybe you should see this, watch the video so you understand what I'm doing. So if you do like this, okay, the sand is going to be here. The parts of the sand that don't make sense to you and to the sand, they are just going to kind of come out, but you still have a good amount in here, right? And this is what I feel that I had to do. So I've kind of exposed myself to not having a lot of what I'm doing so I can understand if I'm really in love with it or if I'm actually dependable of it. And I feel like I've taken away the dependable part. And now I've stayed with the love, the respect, the humility I have for what I do. I'm so happy that I'm sharing this with you because sometimes, when I speak, I feel like I'm also healing. And you know that my inner process, my journey started with my throat, with my thyroid, with my beautiful butterfly. I even have it here on an illustration. So it's beautiful for me to feel that now when I speak about these topics, I'm also healing them. And I hope that this can bring you something as well. So yes, this is a little bit of what I've been through. It's just really a little bit. It's like the top of the iceberg. I feel like this is important for me to share, for me, for you, maybe for your inner journey. Yes, and a lot has changed. I even have a new desk. I have a new place to work. I'm still figuring out a few things. I'm changing a few things in the way how I'm working. Right now I see healing processes in a much more deep and even long way. So even if you approach me as a client, I'm sure that you will understand that just not in a way of, I was completely off before and now I'm on. No. I'm still the same person. I'm so grateful for everything I've done before this and also throughout this phase. But now I feel like I approach the healing processes in much more respectful way and even sometimes longer way, because I feel like if you want to heal something, sometimes it takes a long time or a longer time than what we expected. But like expectations, they are here just to show us what we have to look into ourselves as well. So yes, I have much more love for what I'm doing right now, because now I'm not in a toxic relationship with what I'm doing. Yes, and I feel like we are always improving, right? And I'm so in love with the Joanna also that kept on serving the world even though I was so much into this identity crisis, but this was very, very, very important for me, for my soul. And I really hope that this can bring you something as well. You know, I wanted to bring you something else today. And now I've started speaking about this identity crisis, and I feel like this was what it was really needed to come out, and for you to hear as well, and for me to say. But I just want to let you know that this podcast will probably not be as or coming out as often as it was. This was also a healing process for me. It's never about the quantity. It's a lot about the quality. And even though I feel like I've always tried to bring quality, I was also trying to bring quantity. And this is not who I am. I am someone who really needs time to process things. And even though during this last year, because the podcast is already 1 year old, or even more than that, because it started in October last year, even though I was always so worried about bringing quality and I was channeling so many messages for you, it was quite hard for me to maintain, the timing, and the how often the episodes were coming out. Also because this is a free content, right? And I'm not going to tell you this in a marketing way or business related part. This is my responsibility, not yours, to be worried about this. But I just want to share with you that since it is a free content, I've realized that, wait, this is not being balanced for me. At a certain point, I felt like the podcast was taking me more time than the time that I want to dedicate myself to study, to be a better therapist. It was taking me more time than many other things that I want to do so I can be a better therapist for you. And at a certain point, I became more of a speaker than even a therapist. And this is not what I want to do, at least for now. I want to still improve being a therapist and still being a very good therapist and then bring things here. But, I still do everything by myself. So I'm not in a place where I can actually keep on doing a free content and delivering a free content every single week. And again, this is not for you to focus on the business part because that's not your responsibility, it's mine. But this is also a mirror of life, right? I was not having a balanced relationship I was giving too much. You know what I mean? I was giving too much. I was really, yes, I was giving too much. And you know what happens when you give too much? Life is not going to give you double. This is a fallacy. What I was doing was that I was putting too much pressure on to giving you something, and I was not having any sort of return. And for you to be able to provide free content, you really have to have the other part, so it can also pay for the free content. And this is what happens in life. You have to, when we give too much, and we just don't giving because we are not expecting anything in return, that's amazing, and it's the way how you should approach it. However, when we give too much, what happens is that we will not actually receive double. That's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is that you will not feel balanced, and I was not feeling balanced. I was at a certain point, I was just giving too much and too much and too much for the podcast, for the free content, and then suddenly every other single thing that was also so much my priority was kind of being left out. And yes, when you give too much, what happens is that life is going to show you that you're giving too much. And this is what I felt. I really felt this in my life and in my job. So from now on, and I hope that this brings you some message of also giving too much. If you're giving too much, please just realize where you are giving too much, and maybe you can still give, but maybe in a more balanced way. And what I've decided is that since this is a free content, and also because I feel like what I bring here is so important for me, for everyone that listens to me, I've realized that this is something that needs time to be processed. It needs time also for me to be able to edit the content, to deliver you the content with even more quality, even more heart, even more soul. So from now on, what I've decided is that the podcast will be out once or twice a month. I have in my plans to also have some people that I will be inviting every now and then. So yes, I'm still figuring it out, but if you have any suggestions of people that you would love to hear here on the podcast, either in Portuguese, either in English, please let me know. And to finish, I would like to let you know as well that I was on a self journey for a few days at the end of October, and I'm so happy and so glad for this. I'm so absolutely grateful for that. So I was doing a course on family constellations in group, and I traveled to Egypt by myself. It was a course I knew that I wanted to do since May. I had decided in May that I was going to do it. It's something that I was really missing. And it was amazing because I have committed myself to it since May. And since May, I've not done many things because I knew that I was going to Egypt, that I was going to travel to Egypt at the end of October. So it was amazing that for me, I brought so many things from this journey, and I'm so absolutely grateful for it. But and I feel like I'm going to even bring you more details about it in the future, maybe on Instagram, maybe here. I don't know yet, but I couldn't really start this season without acknowledging that I went through this process. And it was about going by myself. It was about coming back by myself. It was about the fact that I went in a time where I was so worried also for my own safety because of how the world is right now. It was the fact that I've committed to it since May, and because of it, I've decided to not to do so many other things because I was so committed to it already. I knew that at the end of October, I was going to do it. So I knew that I was so committed to it already. So it's about the community. It's about the fact that I've waited to go through this for at least these 2 years since I became a facilitator. I knew that this was a journey that was coming. It was about the community feeling that I had during this course. It was about the many ancestors that I bring today in my heart because of this journey. It's about the new technique that I've learned. It's about the leap of faith that I took when I decided to go. It's about how much has changed inside of me just because of these few days. It's about this humility feeling that I have about family constellations and about the things that I know already, about the things that I knew before, about the things that I've learned during the course, about the things that I don't even know yet. It's about so many things, but today I will just focus on the commitment. Also because I feel like this can be so much related to this identity crisis that I talked in the beginning. And sometimes when we are committed to something, it's so good to say no to other things because you are so committed to something that you know that it is for you. And it's amazing. I didn't expect that this identity crisis would have its top or its peak in October when it was my birthday and all. But it's what happened. And then I realized, oh, wait, I'm going to Egypt at the end of this month. So it was amazing that this trip that I knew already I was going to take since May came in a time where I was going through this process of where is my identity related to, or what am I sticking my identity to so much that I have to kind of let it out, so then I understand what it's actually for me or not, or what it's part of something that I love or not. And by taking this trip at the end of this month, and in a month where I did really this detox process of like, what if I'm identifying, or if I'm relating my identity and my own self-love and value just to my job, I will have to just go out of it and just take a step back and see that from outside, and see myself from outside of it. And taking this trip, it was sort of the coming back to the love process. So I took a step back. I saw what I loved from the outside, and then at the end of the month, I went to Egypt. I took this course, and I was like, you know what? I'm so in love with this. I'm so in love with family constellations, with the systemic consciousness, with my family, with my ancestors, with everyone else's family and ancestors, and the systemic consciousness that it exists in the world, that now I'm even more ready to be a facilitator, just because I'm taking this into my heart, not in a toxic way, but not because I depend on it, but because I am absolutely in love with it. And I'm absolutely in love with the fact that I'm learning constantly from it. And again, when we commit to something in a long term, and we live life in a way of like, you know what, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that I'm going to go. It's something that it really empowers you so much. I was afraid for my own safety. I didn't know what was going to happen. I decided to go, even though the world is completely unfair and crazy right now, because I knew that I had to be there. And sometimes we really feel like things have to happen for us very quickly and effortless. And even though I feel like this was effortless in so many ways, it was an effort. It was an investment. I decided not to do many other things, not to buy many other things, not to invest in many other things, because I knew that that place was where I had to be in this time of my life. And sometimes waiting for these things, committing to these things, will bring us so much more than just wanting things for for yesterday, like we say in Portuguese. Also, and just to end, because this is so much related to the podcast, at the end of the first season, I did a sort of a questionnaire on my Instagram about the podcast, if it was okay to be in English, or if you would prefer for me to go back to Portuguese. And I've realized that this was something that was still kind of blocking myself. I was blocking myself still into this. And I realized also from Egypt, where people that I worked with were so into English as well, even though they are Egyptians, I mean. I realized that this is something that it's not gonna, it doesn't matter. Even though I feel like my spiritual language is Portuguese, and sometimes I really channel texts and messages in Portuguese, and this is what I do sometimes on Instagram. This project itself, I really want for it to be worldwide. And even though sometimes I feel if I invite people to come to the podcast, and if they are Portuguese, I'll of course interview them in Portuguese. I feel like the majority of the podcast really should be approachable in like worldwide, for every single person in the world. So, and I've also realized that maybe this is not a podcast that you will listen to while you are driving. And like I told you in the last episodes, or in the first episodes that I did in English, I really want to bring you in this journey with me, at least for now. I don't know if I'm going to change it in the future. I never know, right? I want to bring you in this journey of learning with me, this is how I'm thinking right now. This is how I'm approaching topics right now. So I want to bring you in this journey with me. So thank you so much. I don't know if you're Portuguese. I don't know if you're a Portuguese native speaker or not, but I'm so glad that you are here. And yes, I'm so grateful that I was able to record this for you. I hope that you loved this episode, my coming back. Yes, and I feel like I brought you a lot of things from here and there. Probably I will go into more detail in the future about any of these topics. Let's see what comes up. Please let me know if there's any topic you would like to listen to in this podcast. Please let me know if you would like to see any person being invited and interviewed by myself here, being Portuguese or not. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for seeing this journey also from a respectful point of view. Please do that for yourself and for others around you. And I hope that if you're really identifying yourself or seeing your own value only related to something in your life, look into that something of your life and see if it actually makes sense for you to associate your own value just to that specific point. I'm sure this is what you have to look into, and that it's time maybe to let it go from one point of view and to see if you can see it from a more respectful point of view, as much as I did to this job, to this place that I love so much to have in your life, in my life too. Thank you so much. I really feel like this is a community. And when I'm here on the podcast, I really feel like I can pour my heart out for you. So thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you so much for being here along this journey. And let me feel the Portuguese word that I want to bring you today. Okay, I'm going to bring you this word, which is propósito, which is purpose, because I've spoken so much about this identity process and this course and all this, and I really feel like this is about my purpose in life. So propósito, this is the word that I want to bring you today. Have a lovely week, have a lovely month. I will be seeing you soon. Thank you for being here.